We're at Stonefall Cemetery, which is just on the outskirts of Harrogate, and it's a really big site for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. We have more than 1,000 war graves in here in total across the cemetery, and in this plot we've got just over 900 war graves. So in 1942 the government realised that they were running out of burial space for Air Force casualties, and Harrogate was one of the places that was chosen due to the number of Air Force bases across North Yorkshire. So what we've got here then are Second World War casualties. They weren't all people from the United Kingdom. Some of them were men from the Caribbean, for example. We commemorate 6 casualties from the Caribbean here. We've got over 600 men who were serving with the Royal Canadian Air Force. We've got almost 100 who were serving with the Royal Australian Air Force, and just over 20 serving with the New Zealand Air Force. Casualties didn't necessarily have to die within Yorkshire. There were, very sadly, casualties coming from a wide area of the country to be buried here. Here we are at the grave of Ulrich Leslie Lukian. He was from Trinidad and he came to Britain in 1943 serving with the Royal Air Force, where he was undergoing more training because he was going to be a fighter pilot. So he was stationed up in Northumberland. He was learning how to fly Hurricanes. It was a 10-week course, and unfortunately, whilst he was on that training course, he was out flying in poor weather to low height, and unfortunately his plane hit a hillside, and that resulted in him losing his life at a very, very young age. Like many of the casualties in this site, Ulrich was buried a long way from home, but I do know that his mum came to visit this site. Then a couple of years ago I had an email from Ulrich, I think it was his great niece. She was coming over to Scotland for some work training, and she came down and I was able to show her where her great uncle was buried. Here we are at quite an unusual grave, because this casualty is a Fijian casualty, and we believe that he was the only Fijian who served with the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. And his name is Ithakele Devivirati Komesavi, but his friends called him Ratu Dove. He was from a wealthy family. He was a descendant of King Kakabau, and most families of his ilk sent their children over to New Zealand to study. So he was in New Zealand when the Second World War started. However, he came back, and his uncle was looking for people to volunteer to serve with the Royal Air Force. And Ratu Dove had at that time in the newspapers just read about the Battle of Britain, and he heard the call from Britain asking for all those who could serve to come and serve, and so that's what he did. Fortunately, Ratu Dove became ill, and he started to suffer from pleurisy, and he was hospitalised, but unfortunately he didn't recover. In our shelter we have a visitor book, and I was just taking a look this morning, and the last visitors to the site at the weekend were actually members of the Fijian Rugby Union Club, and they have left a message there. They came specifically to visit Ratu Dove's grave, and that's one of the real importance and the significant features of this cemetery, is that we do get a lot of visitors from right around the world coming to visit the graves of their loved ones and their fellow countrymen and women, and making sure that they are not forgotten. So in our military plots like this one, we have our own paid staff who look after them, but we have got a big volunteer programme called Eyes on Hands On, where we volunteers look after what we call the scattered graves, so the graves which aren't in military plots, and most of our graves in the United Kingdom are scattered in cemeteries. We are trying to gather stories for all of our 1.7 million casualties. So we have a story portal called For Evermore, and we would love people to upload their family history of our casualties onto that, or if they've just researched somebody who lived in their village and they've no family connection, then please put that up, because that portal then will be kept, and that will be there forever then.